Hello and welcome to today's episode of pianoTV. I'm Allysia, your host, and today we are going to be talking about Bagatelle number 25 in A minor, WOO59, or as I would like to say, woo 59. It's because it's the capital W and the lowercase o and the uppercase O. And whenever I read it, I just woo. That's what happens in my brain. Anyways, this is also popularly known as Fur Elise, one of the most famous piano compositions of all time by Ludwig van Beethoven. I actually can't believe we haven't even talked about Fur Elise on the channel yet, but we've learned Fur Elise in a tutorial, at least the easy part. So if you want to walkthrough of that, we can link that below. But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to talk about the form. We're going to expand on what a bagatelle is and rondo form. We've already done videos on that recently, but this is going to be like a specific example of rondo form and a specific example of a bagatelle. I'm going to walk you through with some audio examples of the fun verses episodes that maybe you guys aren't as familiar with as the main theme, and we're just going to talk about any fun little tidbits that I think are interesting. Let's get started. Fur Elise is titled For Elise if you translate it to English. It's not a very hefty translation to do. You just got to switch one letter around. It's a solo piano composition. I've already mentioned it's in rondo form. One thing that we're going to be talking about in a moment is who's Elise? Who is the For Elise? This composition wasn't published when Beethoven was alive, instead being discovered 40 years after his death. So it was discovered in 1867, and the original manuscript was dated back to 1810. So sort of getting towards the end of his life. Maybe, well, I guess that's like 17 years away from the end, maybe like midlife then. Ludwig Nohl, the musician who discovered Beethoven's manuscript, was the one who transcribed it and created the version that we know and play today. Now, Beethoven probably intended this bagatelle to be part of a cycle of bagatelles, like his other 3 sets of bagatelles, but we really just don't know, and it's just appreciated as like kind of a little individual bagatelle nowadays. Now, we're going to talk about Elise for a moment, because it's one of the interesting things about this composition. We don't know for sure who Elise is, but there are 3 possible candidates who come up a lot. That's Therese Malfatti, Elizabeth Rocker, and Elise Behrensfeld. And I know what you're thinking. Only one of those women is named Elise, so it's probably her. But not so fast. It gets confusing. Okay, so the first theory with Therese Malfatti. Now, the way this theory goes is that Ludwig Nohl transcribed the title wrong, and it was supposed to be titled Fur Therese instead of Fur Elise. So Therese was a friend and a student of Beethoven's, and they had like a little bit of like a romantic thing going on. He apparently proposed to her in 1810 and was rejected. And since this was composed in 1810, that's one of the tie-ins. Elizabeth Rockel is another candidate for this title, and I find this one to be pretty convincing. She was a German soprano singer with a couple of nicknames, including Betty, which makes sense, Elizabeth, and Elise, which is a little bit of a weirder nickname for Elizabeth. You don't really hear that one as often, but she was a friend of Beethoven since 1808. So again, timeline-wise, that one makes sense. And she was featured in some of Beethoven's opera, including, what's the plural of opera? Including the main soprano lead in Fidelio. And then finally, we have Elise Behrensfeld, the one who actually has the name Elise. She would be different because she was a child. She was a child prodigy, and she was touring around with a friend of Beethoven's, and then she lived with this friend in Vienna. Now, at the time of Fur Elise's writing in 1810, she would have been a 13-year-old girl. Basically, the idea is that Beethoven might have dedicated it to Elise as a favor to Therese Malfatti, who we talked about earlier, since Therese lived near Beethoven's friend and near Elise. And they all kind of might have known each other, and Beethoven might have even given her piano lessons. Since Fur Elise is in rondo form, that means it looks like this. So ABACA, with part A being the main theme or chorus, and this is the part that everyone knows. And then the B and the C sections are alternating episodes. The nice thing about the A section is that it's actually pretty easy. Many first and second year adult students are able to give it a go, and it's a really great study in pedal work and expression. And again, we've talked about it on this channel before. We've done a little tutorial on it. However, the B and the C section, which people are less familiar with, are significantly more difficult, more like a grade 7 or 8 level. Fur Elise is in A minor and 3/8 time. I just want to get that out of the way. Now, our A section begins with an A minor theme marked poco moto. So in a like with a little motion. And then the left hand is playing arpeggios. They're sort of like arpeggios anyway. And they just alternate between two simple chords, A minor, which you can see in the first one, and then E major is the second one. And then we're following the exact same motif when we get to the middle section, the B section. We have there it is, where we go to a C chord, then a G chord, and then we're back to A and E. So that's part of the reason this one's so simple, is because it's very simple in the left hand in that there's not a lot of variation, and the motifs are pretty consistent all the way through. Like, you're not doing a whole bunch of different changes and things like that. Let's take a listen to this theme, although I hardly think we need to. I think you probably already know what it sounds like. The B section, in typical rondo fashion, moves to the sixth key of A minor. So again, Fur Elise is in A minor, and then the sixth note of an A minor scale is F. So this section is written in F major, and you can see here's an F major chord being outlined right as our B section begins. This part, like the C section that we're going to talk about, is way more difficult to play than the A section. It's, again, approximately a grade 7 level. One contrast in this part is that the melody in this section is scale-based. So that means it moves more in steps, whereas the A section, the really famous part, has a lot of like leaps, and it's more of a chord-based figure. I also like that this part is really cheery. This is like the one part of the piece that's like, ooh, this is light. This is like a nice, happy little bagatelle. And then your left hand is doing a little bit of an Alberti bass pattern, which is like where you have the bass note and then you alternate the top two. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's a really common feature in classical music. And then we head back to the A section. But let's have a listen to this. Okay, so the C section is the dramatic part of this composition. And it's my favorite part. I just like the drama. Now, this is written in the fourth key of A minor. So again, if we're in A minor and then we count up 4 notes, we get to D. So this part is written in the key of D minor. We have this long sustained, when it starts, you got this like A bass note, which leads us into the key of D minor a few bars down the road. There is a pedal point here, which is basically where you have like a repetitive bass note that the chords are riffing on top of. There's some diminished seventh chords for full angsty effects, and there's also some chromaticism here. All of those components give it like that really, I'm trying to look for a different word than angst, but like an angsty feel. Despite that angst, it's really important in this part, if you're playing it on the piano, to keep the melody singing so it doesn't come off as overly harsh. Because remember, like even when they're darker, bagatelles are all about lightness. And then we modulate back to the key of A minor. There's like a rapid, broken A minor chord passage. There's like a chromatic scale. You'll hear those things if you listen to the whole thing, but let's just listen to a quick snippet. And then once the C section is finished, we return to the A section, which is, again, our kind of like our chorus, our main theme. That plays through, and then the piece is over. And that's pretty much all there is to it. And that is all for today's episode of pianoTV. Definitely listen through the full bagatelle on your own, because it's short. I mean, it's like what, 4 minutes long? It's not like a huge investment. It's not like some of the pieces we talked about on this channel, especially those in sonata form that are like, 20 minutes long. Do you hear the sirens? I live in a small town. It's very unusual to hear sirens. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching this video as always, and I will catch you in the next one. Another candidate. Gotta get the sun out of my face.